They always say it's just age. That's what David told me sitting in my office, his hands folded, eyes tired, posture a little slouched like the weight of something invisible had been pressing down on him for far too long. "Doc, I guess I'm just getting old," he muttered. "Don't feel like myself anymore. No energy. No fire. My body, it's just not listening to me these days." I've heard those words more times than I can count in my career. But this time was different, because 3 months after that appointment, David was rushed to the ER. Not for a heart attack, not for a stroke, but for something far more silent and far more devastating. A sudden, severe restriction in blood flow to the lower part of his body. A part that no one ever warned him about. A part that makes us feel like men. That gives us intimacy, connection, a sense of self-worth most people don't even realize is vital until it starts slipping away. When they wheeled him in, he was pale, ashen. Not in physical pain. No, but emotionally, it was like someone had cut off his sense of identity. You see, this isn't about vanity. This isn't about wanting to feel young again for the sake of nostalgia. This is about dignity. It's about the quiet decline that too many men accept without ever questioning it. And I'll be honest with you, I've spent over 30 years in medicine, and now in my retirement, I feel more compelled than ever to speak the truth plainly. Because no one else is saying this, and too many of us are paying the price in silence. It's not just age, it's poor circulation. That's the villain hiding in plain sight. You may not feel it coming. It doesn't hit you all at once. It whispers starting with cold hands, heavier legs, a foggy head you can't shake off, and then one day, when it matters most, your body doesn't respond, and not just in the bedroom, but in life. You feel disconnected from your own skin, you laugh less. You hug your wife with less presence. You stare into space more than you talk, and you tell yourself, maybe I'm just tired. Maybe it's just normal. But let me be clear, it is common, yes, but normal? No. What shocked me the most about David, and I've seen this play out with hundreds of other men, is that his doctors missed it. They patted him on the back and said, "You're just getting older." They gave him pills for blood pressure, something to help him sleep, a vague suggestion to eat more greens and walk more. But not one person talked to him about his circulation. Not one person told him that blood flowed to your most vital systems. Not just your heart or brain, but your identity as a man matters more than ever after 60. When blood doesn't move well, you don't move well. Not physically, not emotionally, not intimately, and that's why I'm here. I didn't plan on making videos when I retired. I thought I'd garden and spend time with my grandkids, maybe finally get into fishing like I always said I would. But after seeing so many good men slip quietly into a version of life that is only half-lived, I realized I couldn't stay silent. So I'm speaking up, because you deserve to know what's really going on. You deserve to understand that your body hasn't betrayed you. It's calling out to you. And if you really listen, you'll realize this isn't the end. It's the beginning of a different kind of strength. You may not feel like the man you used to be, but that man is still in there. He's not gone. He's just waiting for blood to flow again. If you've ever found yourself staring at the mirror, wondering when exactly you started feeling less alive, then I want you to stay with me. Because this might be the most important health conversation you've never had. And I promise you, it's not about guilt. It's not about blame. It's about giving you back the information you should have had all along. So you can take back control of your mornings, your mind, your relationships, and your future. If this message has struck a chord with you, even a small one, please do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button. Not for me, but for the countless men out there who haven't heard this yet. For the son who thinks his dad is just tired. For the husband who doesn't know how to explain what's changed. For the man still wondering if he's the only one. Your support helps keep this message going. And I promise there's more to come. What I'll be sharing next just might surprise you because it starts with something so ordinary, so overlooked, you probably have it in your fridge right now. But before we go there, I want to leave you with something to reflect on. Here's a question for you. Which do you believe is more dangerous to men after 60? A. Aging itself. B. Poor blood circulation. Type your answer below in the comments or B. I'd love to hear what you think. And your answer just might help someone else see things differently too. When I first began working with men in their 60s, I thought I had seen it all. Chest pains, high cholesterol, diabetes, slowed reflexes, all the usual suspects of aging. But over time, a pattern began to emerge. It was subtle at first, so quiet that even the patients themselves couldn't quite name it. They didn't come in complaining of sharp pain or alarming symptoms. No, it was something much softer. A quiet confession, usually spoken while looking down or after a long pause. "Doc, I just don't feel like myself anymore." And that sentence, so simple yet so heavy, became the red thread tying hundreds of stories together. It wasn't always about energy. It wasn't just about memory. It wasn't only about intimacy. It was all of it. A slow, persistent unraveling of their vitality. Something had dimmed, and they thought it was just age. But I knew better. I started digging deeper. I ran more detailed blood panels. I looked beyond cholesterol and sugar levels. I paid attention to the little signs, the skin tone of their fingertips, the color of their lower legs, the pulse in their feet. I asked different questions. And what I found, time and time again, was a single culprit hiding in plain sight: poor circulation. It's the silent saboteur. It doesn't crash through the door like a heart attack. It sneaks in quietly, a little slower every year, until one day you realize that you're living half a life. Your blood vessels, the very highways that deliver oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and life itself, have narrowed, stiffened, and slowed. And with that, so have you might feel it first in your fingers and toes. That coldness that doesn't go away, even with warm socks. You might notice your legs feel heavier on stairs, or that you're winded sooner on your afternoon walk. Maybe you chalk it up to getting older. Maybe you think you're just out of shape, but inside, something more profound is happening. You see, when your blood doesn't flow well, your life doesn't flow well. That's not poetic. That's physiology. Poor circulation doesn't just starve the muscles of oxygen. It deprives the brain of clarity. It dulls the edges of your thinking. You start forgetting words mid-sentence. You walk into a room and forget why. You listen to your wife talking, and midway through, your mind drifts, not out of disinterest, but because the fog has quietly rolled in. And with it, a creeping fear. Is this how it starts? Is this what it feels like to fade? And yet no one talks about it. We'll talk about blood pressure. We'll talk about cholesterol. But circulation? It's barely whispered. Even though it is the foundation, it's what delivers everything else. Your heart might still be beating strong, but if your vessels are tight and dry, the signal never gets there. And the effects? They're everywhere. Your heart works harder to push blood through narrowed vessels, leading to elevated blood pressure and a constant sense of fatigue, even if you're resting. Your feet may swell by the evening, your hands might cramp more often, and your stamina quietly disappears, like a light dimming one notch at a time. Then there's your brain. I had a patient named Frank, a retired engineer. Brilliant man, sharp as a tack all his life. He came to me not because he was sick, but because, in his words, "I feel like I'm watching my life from behind glass." That haunted me. And it wasn't Alzheimer's. It wasn't dementia. It was oxygen deprivation to the brain, caused by, you guessed it, restricted blood flow. A fog not from memory loss, but from slow suffocation of the most vital organ we have. And then comes the part no man wants to talk about, but every man silently fears: intimacy. The blood vessels involved in sexual function are among the smallest and most sensitive in the body, which means they're the first to go. Long before your heart shows warning signs, your connection, the physical, emotional sense of closeness to your partner starts to erode. You want to be there, but your body won't cooperate, not the way it used to. And you start pulling away, not out of choice, but out of shame. I've sat with men who cried not because of what they lost physically, but because they felt they were no longer men in the way they once were. And I told them what I'm telling you now. You are not broken. You are not done. What you are experiencing is not weakness. It is a message. Your body is asking for help the only way it knows how. It is whispering before it has to scream. The tragedy is that so many of us wait until the scream, until the emergency room visit, until the medication list gets too long to remember, until your wife asks you gently if something's wrong and you don't know how to answer without shame. But it doesn't have to go that way. That's why I'm speaking now from one man to another, from a doctor who's seen too many good lives slowly shrink behind the curtain of silence. I retired from active practice, but I didn't retire from caring. And if this message can reach just one man in time, if it can help you pause, pay attention, and take action before the damage deepens, then every word is worth it. Because you deserve better than silence. You deserve clarity, strength, and the kind of connection that doesn't fade with age but deepens with care. Poor circulation is not your destiny. But ignoring it might be. And the first step to reclaiming your energy, your mind, your relationships, is to recognize the enemy for what it is, not your age, not your genetics, not your past, but a fixable, understandable biological issue that starts in your blood vessels and ends in every corner of your life. And now that you see it, you can do something about it. But real medicine isn't static. It evolves, or at least it should. It should grow with what we see in the real world, not just what we see in laboratory numbers. And what I started to witness over the years contradicted that old script in the most humbling way. Let me tell you about Howard. Howard was 72 when he walked into my office. A retired high school teacher, proud, soft-spoken, and dignified in that way men of his generation often are. He wasn't sick in the traditional sense. His blood work wasn't catastrophic. His scans were unremarkable. But when we sat down, he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Doc, I just don't feel alive." He told me he missed waking up with energy. Missed feeling connected to his wife. Not just sexually, but emotionally, spiritually. He felt dull. He felt unseen, even in his own skin. It wasn't depression, not exactly. It was like his body was still here, but something inside had gone quiet. I asked him about his routines, his sleep, his movement, his diet. "Just coffee and a piece of toast in the morning," he shrugged. "And eggs?" I asked. He laughed. "I haven't touched an egg in over 20 years. Too dangerous, right?" And that right there was the moment I realized how deeply we had misled a generation. Because what Howard didn't know, and what many don't, is that eggs, when used wisely, are not the villains we made them out to be. In fact, they may be one of the most powerful, affordable, and underappreciated allies in supporting circulation, hormone balance, cognitive clarity, and yes, even emotional well-being. Let me explain why. Inside every egg is a dense, natural matrix of nutrients that directly support vascular health. They contain choline, a compound that helps maintain the integrity of the endothelial lining of your arteries, the very tissue that controls blood vessel flexibility and flow. A healthy endothelium means your blood can move more freely, and with that, so can oxygen, hormones, and all the elements your body relies on to feel alive. Eggs also provide arginine, an amino acid that the body converts into nitric oxide, a molecule that helps your blood vessels dilate. This process, known as vasodilation, is crucial for everything from heart health to mental focus to, you guessed it, intimacy. And when blood flows better, everything works better. They're also rich in B vitamins, particularly B12 and folate, which support red blood cell production and help your brain maintain focus and clarity. Combine that with their healthy fats, especially when sourced from pasture-raised chickens, and you have a near-perfect package of fuel designed by nature to keep men thriving, not just surviving. So why were we told to avoid them? Because somewhere along the way, we confused dietary cholesterol with blood cholesterol. We assumed the cholesterol in eggs translated directly to blocked arteries. But the body doesn't work that simplistically. In fact, for most people, dietary cholesterol has little impact on blood cholesterol levels. What impacts it more are processed sugars, refined carbohydrates, inflammatory oils, and chronic stress, things far more damaging than an egg ever was. I encouraged Howard to try something simple. Bring eggs back into his breakfast, but with care. 2 pasture-raised eggs, gently poached or scrambled over low heat in a bit of olive oil or grass-fed butter. No bacon, no processed meats, no greasy frying pan. Just clean, honest nourishment. Maybe a side of sautéed spinach, a slice of avocado, a sprinkle of turmeric if he was feeling adventurous. He nodded, somewhat skeptical, but willing. A month later, he returned. He walked in differently. He was smiling, standing taller. He looked years younger, not because of a miracle pill, but because something inside him had awakened. "Doc," he said, "I didn't know food could do this. I feel like I'm back." It wasn't just the eggs, of course. It was what they symbolized, the idea that healing doesn't have to be complicated. That sometimes the answer isn't in more medication or more restrictions, but in smarter nourishment. In revisiting the basics and seeing them through wiser eyes. Howard wasn't alone. I've watched men across the country rediscover this forgotten food. They start small. 2 eggs, a few greens, maybe some olive oil. And within weeks, they begin to report subtle but powerful shifts. warmer hands and feet, better mental focus, more present moments with their partner. Even a spark of confidence they thought had faded for good. But we must be clear, not all eggs are created equal. What matters is the quality and the method. The eggs from stressed, caged hens fed a diet of corn and soy won't give you the same benefit. Nor will eggs drowned in cheap oil or overcooked until rubbery. You have to treat them and yourself with respect. That's the real lesson here. So often in medicine, we chase complexity. We look for the latest drug, the newest procedure, the advanced scans. And yes, sometimes those are necessary. But more often than we realize, the body is asking for something much simpler: to be nourished, to be supported, to be given the ingredients it was designed to thrive on. And sometimes that journey begins not in a lab or a hospital, but in your own kitchen, with a single egg. In all my years of practice, I've come to believe that health is not about perfection. It's about alignment, about listening to what your body has been trying to tell you. And what if all along, one of the most overlooked solutions to your energy, your connection, your clarity was sitting quietly in the fridge? That to me is the beauty of it. The unlikely hero wasn't some experimental drug or exotic herb. It was a humble egg, the very food we once feared, now returning to claim its rightful place, not as an enemy, but as an ally. Over the course of my career, and even more so during my years in retirement, I've witnessed a heartbreaking irony. So many men finally take a step toward reclaiming their health, only to unknowingly sabotage their efforts through the smallest details. They begin with good intentions, inspired by something they've heard, maybe a video like this one, or advice from a friend. They bring eggs back into their breakfast routine, hopeful, committed, believing they're doing the right thing. And yet, not long after, they tell me the results feel underwhelming or worse. They feel heavier, more sluggish, even irritated. That's when I know we need to have a very different conversation. Because it's not just about what you eat, it's about how you prepare it. Let me tell you about Tom. He was 68 when he came to see me. A former contractor, tough as nails, with hands like worn leather and a stubborn streak that had served him well in his younger days. He had recently retired and wanted to feel better, to have more energy, more clarity, to reconnect with his wife. He had watched one of my early interviews, decided to make some changes, and proudly told me, "Doc, I'm eating eggs every day now, just like you said." He paused. "But I feel worse. My joints ache more, I'm tired before noon, and I've gained weight." So I asked him a question that seemed too simple to matter. "How are you cooking them?" "Same way I always have," he said with a shrug. "Fried them in vegetable oil, throw in some sausage or bacon on the side. That's breakfast, right?" There it was. It's a mistake I've seen time and again. We focus so much on adding the good that we forget how the wrong method can turn that good into harm. You see, Tom was eating the right food but preparing it in a way that stripped it of its benefits and loaded it with new risks. That's the kind of mistake that doesn't just neutralize your efforts, it reverses them. When you cook eggs in industrial seed oils, canola, soybean, corn, you're introducing high levels of oxidized fats into your bloodstream. These oils, especially when heated to high temperatures, become inflammatory. They don't just coat your food, they coat your arteries. They irritate the lining of your blood vessels, increasing the risk of plaque formation, arterial stiffness, and systemic inflammation. It's like pouring glue into a garden hose and wondering why the water slows down. Worse still, pairing those eggs with processed meats, bacon, sausage, ham drenches your body in sodium, nitrates, and saturated fats. These compounds constrict blood vessels and place a heavy burden on your heart. Instead of supporting circulation, your breakfast becomes a cocktail of clot-promoting agents, setting you up for everything from high blood pressure to erectile dysfunction. And then there's overcooking. Scrambling eggs until they're dry, frying them until the edge is crisp and brown. These methods destroy the very nutrients we're trying to harness. Choline, delicate B vitamins, certain amino acids, they're all heat-sensitive. Once lost, they can't be revived. What you're left with is a protein shell, void of the life-giving elements your body needs. I know these things seem small. An oil, a few extra minutes on the stove, but they compound day after day. That's the nature of biology. It doesn't scream when we make mistakes, it whispers. Until one day, it collapses. And that's the part that pains me most. The effort was there. The intention was sincere, but the knowledge was missing. I've had to look men in the eyes and tell them gently that despite their effort, the way they were preparing their food was working against them. I don't say this to scare you. I say this because I care. Because I've made it my mission, even in retirement, to equip men with not just the what, but the how. Because that's what makes the difference between feeling a little better for a week and reclaiming your life for years to come. Tom, to his credit, was open. He asked questions. He took notes, and he changed. He switched to olive oil, bought a cast iron pan, started cooking slower. He stopped adding processed meat. He added spinach instead, and within 3 weeks he called me. "Doc," he said, "I didn't think it would matter. But I feel like my body is breathing again." That's the beauty of it. The difference isn't just biochemical, it's emotional. When your blood moves, your mind sharpens. Your shoulders loosen, you stand taller. And your connection to your partner, to your purpose returns. So if you're listening to this and you've started making changes, I applaud you. Truly. But I urge you not to stop at the surface. Go deeper. Ask yourself, is the way I prepare my food helping me or harming me? Am I giving my body not just the right ingredients, but the right environment to use them? Because the truth is, you can't microwave your way to vitality. You can't deep fry your way to clarity. If you want a body that performs with grace and strength, you need to treat it with respect. That means gentler heat. That means cleaner oils. That means letting go of traditions that served our taste buds but harmed our hearts. It doesn't take much. A few small shifts. A little awareness. But those shifts, like turning a steering wheel just a few degrees, can change the entire direction of your life. I believe that deeply. I've watched it happen. Not in labs, but in kitchens. Not in theories, but in lives. And maybe, just maybe, yours is next. There's something sacred about the morning. In all my years as a physician, and perhaps even more so in the quiet years of my retirement, I've come to believe that how we begin the day holds more power than we ever give it credit for. Before the phone rings, before the demands of the world creep in, there's a window of stillness. A moment where the body and mind are fresh, open, and most willing to receive change. And yet, too many men squander it without even knowing they're doing so. The truth is, the way you start your morning is often a reflection of how you feel about yourself. For decades, I watched men rush through breakfast, if they even ate it at all, grabbing whatever was quick, familiar, or comfortable. A cup of coffee, a slice of toast, maybe nothing. It wasn't laziness. It was resignation. It was the quiet belief that nothing they did really mattered anymore, that decline was inevitable. That energy, clarity, intimacy, those were chapters already closed. But what if I told you that everything could begin again with a single morning? I've seen it, again and again. Men who thought their best days were behind them, who believed that feeling sharp, strong, and emotionally connected was a thing of the past, discover something extraordinary, that their bodies weren't broken, just blocked, that vitality wasn't lost, just waiting. And all it took to begin reclaiming it was a shift in how they nourished themselves, starting the moment they opened their eyes. I often tell my patients, don't eat to fill your stomach, eat to remind your body what it was made to do. That's not just sentiment, it's strategy. When you start your morning with the right foods in the right way, you're not just feeding yourself calories, you're feeding your circulation, your hormones, your brain chemistry, and your sense of self. So what does that actually look like? I recommend beginning with 2 pasture-raised eggs, gently prepared. Not rushed over high heat, not drowned in oil, but cooked with care, poached, soft-boiled, or scrambled slowly in olive oil or grass-fed butter. This preserves the vital nutrients your body needs: choline to protect your arteries, B vitamins to fuel your brain, and amino acids to support the production of nitric oxide, the molecule that allows your blood vessels to relax and flow freely. But don't stop there. Add a handful of sautéed spinach or kale. These dark leafy greens are rich in natural nitrates, which convert into nitric oxide and further improve circulation. They also deliver magnesium and antioxidants essential for muscle function and cellular repair. Then slice up half an avocado. Those creamy green fats do more than taste good. They provide monounsaturated fats that help balance testosterone levels, reduce inflammation, and support cognitive clarity. For men over 60, maintaining hormone balance isn't about vanity, it's about preserving drive, mood, and memory. If you're up for it, finish with a sprinkle of turmeric and black pepper. Turmeric fights inflammation at the cellular level. Black pepper enhances its absorption. Together, they form a quiet army against the kind of chronic low-grade inflammation that underlies fatigue, brain fog, and even vascular damage. You don't need a complicated diet, you need a conscious one. Give your body this kind of breakfast for just 7 days, 7 mornings of intentional nourishment, and you may be surprised by what returns. I've had patients report that their fingers no longer feel cold, that their morning walks feel lighter, that they can think more clearly, and even hold eye contact longer. One man, in his 70s, told me he cried during breakfast on day 6, not out of sadness, but because for the first time in years, he felt present at the table with his wife, fully there, awake in his own skin. That's what happens when circulation improves not just in your body, but in your life. Things start moving again, emotion, focus, connection. The morning becomes more than just a routine. It becomes a ritual of reclamation. You begin to see yourself differently. You stand a little taller, you breathe a little deeper. And you remember, even if only faintly at first, that you are not done, not by a long shot. This isn't about turning back time. You don't need to be 30 again. This is about becoming fully alive at 60, 70, 80. It's about clearing away the dust and noise and letting your body speak for itself. And what it's saying is, I'm still here, I still work, but I need your help. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up, I want you to pause before reaching for the usual. Open your fridge. Take out those eggs. Take out the greens, the avocado, the turmeric. And with every motion cracking, stirring, seasoning, I want you to remember that you are not powerless. You are not a victim of aging. You are a man with choices. And what you choose in the quiet minutes of the morning could determine how the rest of your life feels. I've watched this small ritual change the course of a man's week, then his month, then his year, and eventually his relationship with his body, his wife, his confidence, and his purpose. You don't need a miracle. You need a method. One rooted in care, in science, and in the belief that your best years are not a memory. They are a possibility. Let your morning be the start of that return. Let it be your reset, because there is still so much life left to live. And it begins with how you greet the day. As a doctor who has spent over 3 decades walking beside men through some of the most vulnerable moments of their lives, and now, in the quieter season of retirement, continuing to speak from experience rather than textbooks, there's one truth I've come to believe with unwavering conviction. The body never truly gives up on you unless you give up on it first. What we've explored together is more than just a conversation about eggs or blood flow. It's a reminder that our health is not determined solely by our age, genetics, or even medical history, but by the small, daily choices we make, especially when no one is watching. The food we eat, the way we move, the thoughts we hold, and the care we show ourselves all play a role in either awakening or suppressing the life force that still runs through us, no matter our age. The silent decline that so many men experience after 60, the cold hands, the foggy mind, the fading intimacy is not a punishment or a sign of weakness. It is a signal, a gentle nudge from the body asking for nourishment, movement, presence, and most importantly, respect. And while the medical system too often answers with prescriptions and resignation, I'm here to tell you, there is another way. A way rooted in science, yes, but also in care and self-awareness. And in reclaiming control over your mornings, your meals, your mind. The humble egg was never the enemy. It was misunderstood. Much like so many men who feel like shadows of themselves, when in truth, they simply need the right conditions to return to life. Nutrition is not about rules, it's about remembering what your body was built for. Circulation is not about numbers, it's about bringing vitality back to places that have gone quiet for too long. Let this be your invitation. Not to start over, but to start again with intention. Wake up tomorrow and make one different choice. Cook your breakfast with care. Sit down, breathe deeply, and remind yourself that healing doesn't require a revolution. Sometimes it only asks for consistency. You deserve to feel strong. You deserve to feel clear-headed. You deserve to feel connected, not just to your partner or your purpose, but to your own body. Because it's still there. It's still listening. It's still capable. So give it what it needs, not with guilt, not with fear, but with curiosity, compassion, and courage. And if something in this message spoke to you, if it reminded you of something you've lost, or something you still hope to find, please remember, you are not alone. There is a community here. There is guidance here. There is hope here. Here's a simple question for you to reflect on. What do you believe has a bigger impact on your daily health after 60? A. The medications you take. B. The small lifestyle habits you repeat each morning. I'd love to know your answer. Drop your choice A or B in the comments below, and feel free to share why. Your perspective might help another person who is walking a similar path. And if you found this video helpful, even just one part of it, please consider subscribing to the channel. It means more than you know. And if you'd like to support the creation of more valuable content like this, I would be deeply grateful for your donation, no matter how small. I may be an older man now, but I still believe in the power of sharing wisdom that can change lives. Your support keeps this mission alive. Thank you for being here. Let's keep growing together.